7-mal bei der Weltmeisterschaft mit dabei und kommt aus England. Die Rede ist von Steve Simply the West. Steve West tritt an gegen die aktuelle 19 der Welt. Er hat im letzten Jahr seine ersten beiden PDC-Titel einfahren können. Gestern überstand er 4 Matchstarts gegen sich und er will unbedingt ein weiteres Mal, das ist schon ein paar Mal geschafft, in das Viertelfinale hier auf der European Tour. Herzlich willkommen dem Rockstar Joe Cullen! Hugh Ware ist der Caller dieser dritten Begegnung.
Well, a very warm welcome for Hugh Ware as he refs his first game of the final session here at the German Darts Grand Prix, not least from Joe Cullen, the rock star, number 7 seed, a man who produced some of the outstanding moments of this weekend so far in his last leg decider against Jordi Mayweather. A phenomenal couple of finishes, 120 to take it to a last leg and then a 164 checkout on the bullseye to win it. I would take those 2 checkouts out for a steak dinner. They were that good. And if he continues to show the guts that he showed there, the guts that he showed last weekend in his run at the European Darts Open, then Joe Cullen really does have a chance of going on and claiming his first European Tour title. It's Steve West, an unseeded player, that stands in front of him. The winner of this faces either Alan Tabben or Peter Wright. Steve West has not played anywhere near his best so far this weekend, but he's been winning. Chris Murphy and myself, Dan Dawson, in the commentary box. Joe Cullen gets us underway in this one.
Yeah, Cullen, no ordinary Joe yesterday. Those finishers were absolutely superb from Joe Cullen. And as you mentioned, Dan, West, well, there have been so many standout moments like those produced by Cullen yesterday that the 2 matches that West has won have been 2 of the more forgettable ones. Wins against Paul Rowley and Kim Hybrex. He has been improving. He did struggle to get here, Steve West, and that affected him. He had a severe lack of sleep before day 1. Took him the best part of 24 hours to make it to Munich. But just had a quick word with him before he went on stage, and he has been resting up as much as possible since then.
Steve rests.
When Steve West rests, he plays his best. Well, you mentioned something about a 170 to me against Joe Cullen very recently.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to go here. Steve West actually beat Joe Cullen in the first round of the most recent Players' Championship event a couple of weeks ago in Milton Keynes. Last leg decider. Treble 20, missed the ball, but came back and cleared it up. Can Cullen clear at the 120? Well, he can't.
Yeah, he hooked in 2 big fish finishers, didn't he, in Minehead in one of his matches on his run to the quarterfinals of the UK Open.
50. Joey required 20.
Cullen to hold in leg 1, wants double 5.
15.
Long way off.
Stevie required 20.
Same target. Good guide.
15.
Good grief.
Joey required 5. Games of the first leg. Joe Cullen.
Well, one way or another, Joe Cullen does get that first leg. Not a pretty one. We were spoiled in that game with Max Hopp and Mensur Suljovic, evidently.
That result means we will see at least 1 unseeded player in the semi-finals tonight, because Hopp will meet James Wade, who defeated number 3 seed Michael Smith. Yesterday at this stage, seeds were falling, 6 in a row. We've already lost the first 2.
140.
Yeah, it's been a strange old weekend here in Munich. Could yet be more twists as Joe Cullen puts in his first maximum. Yeah, it's just got a feeling that this weekend might see a new winner. I know we've still got MVG and Peter Wright, but...
Well, we mentioned Steve West's performances were forgettable. They were two of the more forgettable performances as well, from Wright and Van Gerwen. Van Gerwen in particular apologising to the crowd for his lack of X-factor against Steve Lennon. Didn't give him a dart in the deciding leg, as he so often doesn't.
Oh, he's splitting it. Because he does love double four, but what could have been a 10-darter, as good a leg as we've seen on the Euro Tour in 5 years. Well, it'll have to be 13, 14 or 15. Oh, that's a lazy dart from Steve West.
Game shot the second leg, Joe Cullen.
Well, Joe Cullen usually reserves his best stuff for the European Tour.
Game on.
And he's a man who, again, one of those players in that group where you'd say this was his next natural step of progression to perhaps go and win one of these titles. I think that Joe Cullen, if he starts winning big things, he's going to be a really fantastic flag bearer for this game.
I think he's an incredibly watchable player. I love his on-stage persona. I think he's got an all-round game in that.
Yeah, an absolute dream sort of ambassador for sponsors, for the PDC.
Yeah. But I just love his attitude, and you know, one of my most favourite games at the World Championship in recent years was him against Corey Cadby.
Well, that's the exact word. He's got attitude, hasn't he? Yeah. In bucket loads. When he hit that 1-6-4 finish, yes, he knew where all the cameras were, didn't he? Which ones to wink into and all that.
He's the Dirk Zoolander of darts. West not happy with that.
A chance for a showpiece shot. Didn't need to go.
95.
Steve West is caught in the quicksand in this one and sinking fast.
40. Jury required 40.
Really can't find his feet, can he, Steve West? And Joe Cullen,
Game on the third leg. Joe
coast to a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, well, when he was beaten in the quarterfinals last weekend by Peter Wright, he was averaging 109 for a significant chunk of that game. It's just that Peter, in that final session, he just found some gears, and he looked like, well, he looked like the world #2, who was really making up for a poor few weeks and just really enjoying playing brilliant stuff again. And he kind of put Joe to the sword a little bit.
140.
But he didn't do a great deal wrong there, Joe Cullen.
Yeah, well, he could get another go at Peter Wright. Wright in action next against Alan Taban. That ends the first mini session of this afternoon, and then the second half of the draw comes into play with Rob Cross, Darrell Gurney and Michael Van Gerwen all in action.
85.
Has met West on the Euro Tour towards the back end of last year, and it was on one of his many runs to the quarter-final, and once again he met one of the world's top 2 there.
60.
Beaten 6-0 by Michael Van Gerwen. But he beat West 6-2. That was in the
100.
second round. He has a decent record against Steve. 5 wins to Joe, 2 to Steve.
100.
Well, Steve, I think he has to win this leg. And he's in danger of not doing so.
Jury required 84. Gauge on the
He's not letting him off. Not letting up, Joe Cullen. And this has been comfortable. Very, very comfortable.
Fifth leg, Joe, to
The man from Bradford.
Well, were it not for that messing around in the first leg, where Cullen took 21 darts to get it in the bag, we'd be looking at a big 10+ average from Joe Cullen. And we've seen him do this. I mean, he's consistently, he's a bit like Yeller was for a good year, 18 months on the Euro Tour, where he just consistently seemed to find himself in the final session, quarterfinals and semi-finals. And then
60.
Usually Michael van Gerwen would put an end to his hopes by just obliterating him, even though it looked like everything was set up for Jelle to go and claim his first Euro Tour title. You kind of get the feeling that Joe Cullen has assumed that Jelle Klaassen role at the minute, and it's whether he can just get over that hurdle of beating one of the top players and then getting the title. Might have to do it in the final, might have to beat two top players.
Beats who he should beat, but then loses in the match that he's expected to lose.
40.
Well, it's not going West's way at all in this one, and it's turning into demolition day here at the German Darts Grand Prix. A 6-2 win for Max Hopp over Mensah Suljovic. 6-1 was the scoreline for James Wade against Michael Smith. Is West going to head out to a whitewash?
134.
Well, he's left that 170 that he likes so much. Might not matter.
80. Steve, you require
Might have to hit it in 6 consecutive legs to win this, the way it's been going. But he's got a chance to start here.
Oh, Steve West!
Moved the bullseye, didn't he?
32. Game shot the 5th leg.
It is 5-0, and I've talked about this before. It's that rhythm of Joe Cullen where even if he misses, he just goes through the same processes, gives each dart the same amount of attention
61.
and focus, and I think it's been a big part of him getting better and better over the last year and a half or so. In that period, he's picked up his first couple of Pro Tour titles. He's been playing well regularly on the European Tour, putting himself in the discussion for things like Premier League and World Series, but he has to go and, you know, have a big run at a major event. He has to go and make a semi-final of the Worlds or a final of one of the major TV
57.
events. It was good enough to get Gerwyn Price into the Premier League. It's going to take something like that from Joe, and I think he's got the game to do it.
Well, over the course of the last couple of weekends, he's showed every aspect of what it takes to be a top professional darts player. This is a stark contrast to the match against Jordi Mayweather yesterday. He was in a real hole there, Joe Cullen, but he dug himself out of it with those two incredible finishes of 120 and 164 in the last couple of legs. And he showed some real battling qualities last weekend in Leverkusen, but here he's producing a dominant display.
Yeah, and it's not an average that's going to terrify anybody, but that's because there's been some messing around and doubles that drags it down overall. But that little spell where he's gone 13, 14, 15 darter, that's really good stuff. And he's going to leave himself something gettable here. Very gettable. 44 for the match. Now, Steve West nearly took out the 170. He's not going to take out the 160, and I think this might be curtains for Steve West.
He hasn't been able to pull himself together, has he, Dan? Now, double 16 for Joe Cullen. It's a Cullen cruise here at the German Darts Grand Prix. West whitewash in the second round. He'll have to go and get his breath back after that one, because Joe Cullen has absolutely romped to a 6-0 victory. He will take on the winner of our next match. He might get the chance to exact some revenge on Peter Wright for that quarter-final defeat last weekend. Wright's up next against Alan Tabern. It's James Wade, Max Hopp, and now Joe Cullen who have booked their places in the evening session, and we will have a word with our latest winner. A stark contrast to yesterday's match. A comfortable win for Cullen.
Joe, was not Steve simply the best? Not one of his best games he did, right?
No, to be honest, I think the first leg was massive. I probably should have had it earlier on than Steve. I think Steve dwelled on it for the next 2 legs. And obviously he was 3-0 behind it. That wasn't the Steve we know. Me and Steve are really good friends. He's a nice guy, but it was just one of them, get the job done.
The plan for today is winning the whole thing. You're waiting for your first final on European Tour, right?
Yeah. It's hopefully it's not too far away. Last time I was in Munich, I got to the semis. So hopefully I can go 1 better, well 2 better, and win the whole thing.
Yeah. Peter Wright or Alan Tabern? Who would you prefer?
Alan Tabern.
Good answer. Joe Cullen. Ein guter Typ. Also ich habe ihn gefragt, gegen wen er lieber spielen würde, Peter Wright oder